You hear that? Not the sirens, not the music, not the applause, the silence, that thick, heavy quiet that drops like smoke after a bomb goes off. That ain't peace, that's fear, the kind that wraps around a man's spine when he realizes the ghost he used to kick in the ribs is now standing behind him, not for revenge, but because the room bends toward him now. And you're not standing, you're arriving, not with a shout, not with a plea, with the kind of stillness that makes clocks slow down. They used to laugh at your shoes, now they can't look at your shadow without flinching, because you didn't just rise. You rewired the damn gravity of this city, and every soul in it feels the shift. You didn't walk in with a spotlight. You walked in with weight, the kind that doesn't need a title, a logo, or 1,000,000 followers screaming your name. It's the weight of nights where you stared at the ceiling, jaw locked, fists full of nothing but the hunger to prove every liar wrong. It's the weight of promises broken, of love used as a weapon, of doors slammed so hard the frame cracked. And you still knocked. They said you'd never make it, but make it was never the goal. Freedom was. Freedom from their approval, their timelines, their plastic standards of what's reasonable. And the second you stopped begging for a seat at their table, you became the fire that burned it down. They called you unstable, delusional, too much, too loud, too angry. But anger, that's just love with no place left to go. And when love gets betrayed enough times, it doesn't die. It evolves. It becomes armor. It becomes instinct. It becomes the cold, quiet certainty that you don't need them. You replace them. And now their voices, the ones that used to echo in your head like a curse, are just background noise. Faint afraid. Because the man they mocked in the corner is now the one standing in the center, not demanding attention, but commanding it by simply breathing. You didn't get here because someone handed you a key. You got here because you kicked the door in with a broken foot and kept walking. No bandages, no apology, just blood on the floor and a smile they didn't understand. And that smile? It wasn't joy. It was the sound of a mind that finally stopped asking why and started saying, "Watch me." You didn't win because you were lucky. You won because you refused to die. And sometimes that's the only miracle you need. They talk about overnight success like it's real, but you know the truth. You were born twice. Once in a hospital, once in the dark, on your knees whispering prayers to a version of yourself that hadn't arrived yet. And when that version finally did, it didn't look like you anymore. It looked like consequence, like the ending of every story where the good guy loses. Only this time, the good guy wasn't good. He was forged. And forged things don't bend, they cut. This isn't confidence. This is mutation. You're not the same person who used to beg for validation. That version drowned in betrayal rose back up with gills. You don't need love. You don't need trust. You don't even need allies. Because when you've survived every kind of loneliness, you stop fearing it. You use it. It becomes your sanctuary, your training ground, your womb. And what came out? Not a man, a movement, a frequency, a storm wrapped in skin and silence. Now the city hums your name, not in celebration, in survival mode. They see you in the rear view, they see you in the club, they see you on the news, and their stomach drops, like an elevator with no brakes. Why? Because they know what you know. The game was rigged, and you just became the house. They used to whisper, "Who does he think he is?" Now they whisper, "What if he is exactly who he says he is?" And that doubt, that's the crack in their armor. That's the moment they realize you're not trying to join the elite. You're replacing them, and replacement doesn't ask permission. It announces itself. You see the copycats, right? The ones suddenly wearing your style, recycling your quotes, trying to walk with that same slow, heavy step, like they've earned it. But they haven't. They bought the jacket. They didn't live the winter. This energy ain't fashion. It's survival, tax, and you don't pay it with money. You pay it with sleepless nights, with friendships that turned to knives, with dreams that got stomped on and still crawled forward. You can't cosplay this. You can't trend it. You can't tweet your way into this level, because this ain't clout. This is consequence. And consequence doesn't trend. It lurks. It waits. It collects. And the craziest part, you're not even mad anymore. You're not bitter. You're not screaming for justice. You're just here, existing at a frequency that disrupts their peace. And that calm, that's what breaks them, because they expected rage. They braced for revenge. But they didn't prepare for indifference. For the man who looks them in the eye and doesn't flinch, doesn't speak, doesn't react, because they're no longer a variable in his equation. They're just scenery. And when you realize you've been reduced to background noise in someone else's life, that's the deepest cut of all. They thought power was loud, money, fame, headlines. But real power, it's silent. It's the man who walks into a room and doesn't need to speak, because the air changes. It's the one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, because explanations are for the accused. And you're the verdict. You're the sentence. You're the aftermath. And the people who spent years trying to shrink you, they're now measuring their worth by how close they can get to your light without getting burned. But here's the truth. They can't stomach. You don't owe them anything. Not forgiveness. Not access. Not even an explanation. Because every time they said no, every time they laughed, every time they shut the door, they were building your foundation, their doubt, mortar, their lies, bricks, their betrayal, steel. They didn't break you, they built you, and now they have to live with the skyline you became. Every building they pass, every headline they read, every whisper in the club, it echoes with your name. You are no longer a person. You are a phenomenon, and phenomena don't apologize. They occur. This isn't a comeback. This is a recalibration. The world adjusted to your absence. Now it has to adjust to your presence. And presence like this. It doesn't fit in rooms. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't ask for permission. It rewrites reality. You don't play the game. You define it. You don't climb the ladder. You burn it and build a throne from the ashes. And the people who once held the keys, they're now standing at the gate, hoping for a nod. But nods are for equals. And you're not competing anymore. You're context. You're the benchmark. You're the standard everyone else is measured against. And failing, They say power corrupts, but they got it backwards. Power reveals. It strips away the mask, and what's underneath you. Not greed, not ego, not vengeance, just truth. The truth that you were never the problem, they were. And now, with every silent step, every unread text, every unreturned favor, you're proving it, not with words, not with drama, with existence, with the unbearable weight of a man who survived everything and came back not broken, but born again. And this time, he's not asking to be seen. He's asking, can you handle it? Because here's the final twist they didn't see. You don't want their love. You don't crave their approval. You don't even care if they understand. All you wanted was to be free, free from their lies, free from their ceilings, free from their definitions. And now that you are, now that you're untouchable, unshakable, undeniable, their world trembles, not because you attacked it, because you left it, and the vacuum of your absence, that's what's shaking the foundation. You didn't destroy their system, you just proved it wasn't necessary. So let them whisper, let them pray, let them stare at their phones, hoping for a DM that'll never come. Let them practice their fake smiles when you walk by, the ones that don't reach their eyes. Let them lie awake, wondering if you remember, wondering if you'll forgive, wondering if you'll care. You don't. And that's the real punishment. Not revenge, not exposure, just irrelevance. The ultimate revenge is not hating them back. It's not thinking about them at all. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be safe. You are not here to make peace with the people who tried to kill your spirit. You are here to be fully, fiercely, unapologetically, and in that being, you become a mirror that shows everyone else exactly how small they chose to live. And that's what keeps them up at night. Not your success, not your wealth, not your fame, but the terrifying possibility that they could have been you, if they hadn't been too afraid to suffer. So stand tall, not because you won, but because you survived. And survival at this level, that's not luck, that's legacy, that's prophecy, that's the moment the black sheep stops running, and the entire herd realizes it was never prey. It was the predator all along, and predators don't ask for permission. They don't need applause. They don't seek balance. They are the imbalance. They are the storm. They are the fire. They are the goddamn end of the world they once feared. So let the city talk. Let them bow. Let them break. Because the throne wasn't taken. It was earned. And the man who sits on it, he doesn't wear a crown. He is the crown, scarred, silent, unstoppable. And the only thing louder than his rise, the silence of everyone who thought they could keep him down. Now breathe, look around, feel it. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of a world that finally has to answer to you. And if they don't like it, too bad. The black sheep went God mode, and there's no reset button, no undo, no going back, only forward, only higher, only more. So let them watch, let them learn, let them remember this moment. Because history won't record what you said. It'll record what you became, and what you became, unforgettable.